They came for a quiet, peaceful day by the lake. Ukraine's new strategy left them neither. For so long, Russians watched this war from their screens. Now, increasingly, they're watching it from their streets. Moscow's mayor called this one of the most massive drone attacks in recent memory. Ukraine launched hundreds of drones across Russia on Sunday, killing at least 6 people, including hitting this Wildberries warehouse, often described as Russia's Amazon. It's their biggest online retailer, and now, according to Ukraine, a supplier for the Russian military, denied by the Kremlin. Here you can see the marketplace for military gear. This summer, it's become a leading target for Ukraine, and Russians are starting to feel the impact. Since July, Ukraine has hit dozens of the company's facilities across the country, the latest setting ablaze this warehouse south of the capital.
What we've seen now over the last 6 to 9 months has been an increasing campaign, first aimed at oil refineries and now aimed at logistics hubs and sort of the retail wholesale sector. It is trying to make life more difficult. It is trying to raise the cost of living, raise the cost of energy, make the sort of normal modern life that most Russians are used to living, make it a little bit harder.
And it's working. The long lines were back at petrol stations across Moscow amid continued Ukrainian drone attacks on Russia's energy infrastructure.
Many petrol stations have no petrol, and at some, it's available only to fuel card holders. So there are queues everywhere. We'll see what happens next. It's not pleasant.
In the southern Russian city Novosibirsk, petrol prices hit their highest this summer. Yet, when a VIP rolled into town, the price per litre signs conveniently went dark, along the route of Russian President Vladimir Putin, who popped out for a rare walkabout. While Ukraine may be striking deeper into Russia, it's also dangerously exposed to Moscow's intensifying missile campaign as it runs low on interceptors. In a post online, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky repeated his call for more air defense support in the face of increased Russian attacks, writing, "When North Korean ballistic missiles destroy infrastructure and claim lives here in Europe, European interceptors cannot simply be allowed to sit in storage. New packages literally mean lives saved." And livelihoods too. There's not a single store left at the capital's book market after it was hit by a Russian missile attack overnight. Valentina is one of 500 traders here who've lost everything. "We were just selling books," she says. "Just books. There's nothing left."
Emily Wither there. Well, earlier I spoke to Dr. Hanna Shelest in Odesa, in the far southwest of Ukraine, who's Director of Security Programs at the foreign policy think tank Ukrainian Prism. And I asked her if Odesa is increasingly coming under fire.
The last months, Russian Federation has increased significantly their attacks against Odesa, both civilian and the port infrastructure.
Perhaps this is because, of course, Ukraine has had considerable success attacking the Crimean Peninsula, occupied by Russia, just across the water from where you are.
Partially, yes, but it is also the second reason. Let's not forget that now we are in the mid of the harvest season. So exactly when the grain is going to the world market. And at least 70% of the grain exports are being going through the sea and sea export. So closing 3 biggest ports, that all of them are around Odesa, would be a very serious consequences. So the attacks in the mid of the harvest season, when we don't have a lot of alternatives for the export, it is effect both for Ukraine, but also for the world grain market, because Russia is one of the biggest competitors of Ukraine when we speak about Middle East, for example.
In terms of world politics, is there a sense of exasperation at Donald Trump's conduct, frankly?
I would say that the question is not only about the US president, because definitely we knew that he is very unpredictable. Definitely we probably could not imagine the encouraged meeting with Putin and all those positive references after this. But in general, yes, we could expect what would be his policy. The problem is more general, because everybody became so much afraid of the Russian Federation that they would like to keep the weapons they have inside of their countries. However, the problem problem is that Ukrainians are killed daily now, and the Russian Federation will attack you with ballistic missiles only if Ukraine fails. So that is the quite a both moral and strategic choice that many countries, especially in Europe, needs to make. And that is much more unexpected for us, I would say, than just the American president. But that's
Indeed.
also connected with him, because in Europe, they used to think that Americans will come for support, that Americans have the production of the anti-ballistic missiles, for example. But after Iran situation, the changed dramatically.
In terms of morale, how are Ukrainians now, years into this? How do people bear up with that?
We don't have big successes, that is true, because you need much bigger forces and ammunition for this. But at the same time, the last week we received very good news that Ukrainian armed forces managed to liberate 26 villagers at the Eastern Front. And that can be a very good signal that probably for both for the inability of the Russian forces to occupy more territories, but also that Ukraine still has capacity to return back our land. But if you speak about the general population, definitely it is tiredness. But at the same time, it's still determination. We understand why we are fighting and why this war is important.
And yet also all the time, it's clear Ukraine hitting infrastructure night after night, hundreds of miles into Russia.
For the last few years, our military industry started to develop the capabilities with which we can strike as far as the deep strikes inside of the Russian Federation. The issue is that we are still not targeting infrastructure. We are targeting refineries because it is important for military supply and for the additional income for the war. We are targeting the military enterprises. And since recently we started to target the warehouses of, for example, Wildberries company. The reason is that they are used for the dual-use products and they are involved in the military logistics. For Russians, these 4 years of the war, they didn't feel the war. War was some a blockbuster on TV. That's nice, it's very patriotic, but you can't understand that it is war. So Ukrainians would never attack the residential areas, but we are attacking their business and something where they can see the picture that war is real, but not just some nice picture with their elites speaking about patriotism.
Hannah Shellis, thanks very much and stay safe.